Hello everyone, my name is Nicoya, and this is the BMW R9T Urban GS. This was given to me as a loaner for the day from CalMoto BMW in Mountain View, California. If you're in the area, drop by and say hi. There are some friendly folks there who will be happy to sell you a motorcycle or a three-wheeler nowadays, actually. So before we get into things, I want to let you guys listen to the exhaust note on this bike because it is pretty sweet. So believe it or not, this is just the stock exhaust can that you get with the Urban GS package. It has a really lovely throaty sound to it, almost like a little bit dirt bikey, but obviously it's 2-cylinder, so it sounds a lot smoother than that. It has an amazing overrun pop. Like when you let off the throttle in high revs or whatever, you're coming up to a stoplight, you get that little pop in the exhaust. This thing has a snap to the exhaust that is just delicious. So I have to say, for factory pipes, I would not touch these. They are amazing. Actually, I guess it's just the one on the one side, so I would not touch it. It is amazing, I'll say. Really like that. The bike itself obviously is, sort of has that scrambler style, a little bit dirt bikey, a little bit of throwback to some of the earlier Airhead GS models. But when it comes down to it, it is primarily a styling exercise. So this is an on-road bike primarily. You can ride it down a dirt road, a gravel road, fire road maybe. You're not going to take it off into the desert. I mean, you might, but I mean, it's not really the bike for it. Or down like a narrow single track or anything like that. But I found it very pleasant in the small amount of urban riding I did, and I can certainly picture myself taking it down a gravel road. Like if I lived in the Midwest or something and I had just miles of highway, but miles of like side roads, back roads, farm roads, the gravel mile roads between all the wheat fields and everything, this would be just the perfect bike for that. In terms of strictly urban riding, I think maybe it makes a few compromises in terms of style. It's got the wide bars. It has... So this is sort of peculiar to all the all the R9T models I've sat on so far. The distance between the bars and the tank is surprisingly long. And now, I'm a little bit short. I'm like 5'6", and I've got sort of stubby T-Rex arms, and so the fit of this bike is going to be a very personal thing. So by all means, get on it, try it, see what it fits for you. But like, I sat on the R19 Racer, which is, by the way, a fantastic bike. I really want one, and it felt like super stretched out. But I was like, okay, this is clip-ons. This makes sense. It's kind of stretched out and everything. But this one has the wide bars. They're set back a little, but it still feels like you're sort of reaching over the tank on it, which is a bit curious, especially given sort of the GS dirt bikey kind of vibe to it. So, you're not going to expect to be doing like the meerkat posture, standing on the pegs all day kind of thing on this bike. But again, it's not really designed to be like a GS. It's sort of a GS styled bike, I want to say. It comes with knobby tires on it. They didn't feel knobby to me. They just felt like tires. So I would take that to mean that they're just basically the usual motorcycle tires, just with big chunks cut out of them. So I'm not sure how well they're going to grip on looser soils or dirt or gravel or anything like that. But I mean, they're chunkier than some of the rubber you get on like proper adventure bikes. So you got that at least going for you. Now, styling-wise, I have to call out two things. Number one is the seat. It is a beautiful orange color. But unfortunately, that orange color stains really, really easily. So you get on there with like your black textile gear or your leathers or whatever, you're going to have black smudges on that seat like basically instantly. And it's the saddest thing in the world because I just love how it looks. But like even straight out of the factory, like once it gets onto the showroom floor, you'll be able to see like I know they're careful there and they're everything, but you'll be able to see like little smudges of dark on there. So I just had a little glam shot with the iPhone here. My other complaint about the styling is like right as we're coming around to the front here, it has this bizarre pear-shaped look from the front, like right there, where like the cylinders at the bottom make it look weirdly bottom heavy, and combined with like the fairing on the top there, it's the weirdest thing, and it strikes me as being really out of proportion, and I don't know why they did that on this bike. The Racer, for comparison, doesn't have that problem because it has a little bikini fairing up top and it balances itself out. The standard R9T and the R9T Pure, I haven't really noticed that it stands out as much on those bikes. I'm not sure why it's different for this one. I think it has to do with a little fairing around the light. Now that little fairing is, I mean, it looks like a quality piece. It's very nice. It sits around the headlight and covers just the speedometer. There is no tachometer on this bike. And the problem I found with it in practical terms is that it's a little bit on the flimsy side. And so like, I mean, I'm going along surface streets here. I'm not like tearing down the highway or anything, but like even at, 35, 40 miles an hour, the wind bouncing off the fairing would cause it to vibrate and shake as you're going down the road. And it's kind of like, well, this is maybe not quite what I expected out of this this caliber motorcycle. But I say that because it stands out because the rest of the bike is so good, I think. The fit and finish on this, you can't find anywhere on this bike where you look and you say, like, oh, that looks like the designers just forgot about that little corner of the bike and then they just hoped we would as well. Everything looks, like someone's hand purposefully put it there, that nothing was just sort of an accident or an inconvenience of the design of the bike, of the engineering challenge, whatever they had on there. Now, speaking of engineering, mechanically this bike is wonderful. Like, you think of this as like a like if you approach this as like an adventure dirt bikey bike, you're gonna think that the suspension's gonna be super squishy, the brakes might be kind of soft, maybe the engine might be, and the transmission might be a little bit unrefined, but absolutely none of those things is true. The suspension is really impressive for this style of bike. Like, there is no like, oh, as soon as you hit the brakes the front disappears or anything like that. It is solid under braking, it's solid under acceleration. The power is ample. It's got, I don't know, horsepower, you can look it up online, and some number of torques. Absolutely ample. You're never going to feel like you're on a slow bike on this thing. It's not like a neck snapper or anything, but it's not supposed to be, so who cares? So yeah, the brakes, very solid. You'll actually see a bit later in the video that they do in fact work. Acceleration is good. The transmission is actually impressively good. Like, I've heard for a number of years, like, people say like, oh, those old oil heads, like especially the GS, it's like you get on there and the transmission is just all clunky and chunky and it feels like you're trying to kick a stick through a bowl of gravel or something. I don't know, whatever people say about that transmission. Whatever they did to this transmission, it is wonderful. It is geared very high, and so in first gear when you're taking off, you have to slip the clutch a little bit. But the clutch itself, even though it's just like the regular oil head dry clutch, single plate, everything, it works remarkably well. Like, I'm honestly surprised. Like, I've ridden other oil heads that have been kind of disagreeable, kind of agricultural. If you have only ridden like, the bikes from like 5 or 10 years ago, do yourself a favor and ride one of these. It is a night and day difference, and I'm really impressed with what they did with this. So like coming up to slowing traffic or something, a red light, blipping down through the gears, amazingly like buttery smooth. Like, I was really impressed with, considering this is a 1200, it's a twin, it's like it's supposed to be this big lopey engine. You could just give it like a little flick of the throttle, downshift it, and it would just be like, no problem, we're doing this. We're just sliding into gear, no like lurching back and forth or anything like that. Perfectly wonderful. Let me see, what else is there to say about this bike? The ergonomics, a little bit stretched out, I think I covered that. The tires feel fine for road tires, no idea how they work off-road. The Performance is great, the handling is great, the suspension, the way they set it up. You know, it soaks up the bumps. If you got, like, you know, shitty pavement in your neck of the woods, you're not going to have to worry about anything on this thing. Has wire wheels, but, I mean, it is, I think, a little bit more of a stylistic thing than a practical thing. I'm not sure that you're really going to take this far enough off-road that you're going to need to worry about, you know, hammering the rim back into shape with, like, whatever rocks you can find at the side of the trail. So, in terms of, like, you know, the urban style again, you can see back there at the stoplight there, I was able to squeeze around a car without too much trouble. The bars are a little bit wide. Like, if you want a really good lane-splitting bike and you live in California or in Europe or in some other civilized place, the bars are going to be a little bit wide for you. You might want to look at a different model with a little bit more compact dimensions. But honestly, it works just fine. Like, you get used to it. You know, you're obviously, your hands are right on the bars, and so it's not like you're going to unknowingly, like, smash into someone's rearview mirror or something like that. So yeah, this guy, I'm not really paying attention. Horn works too. It's, you know, it's a horn. It makes noise. Let me see. So yeah, so you can split fairly well on it. It is, despite, you know, being a full-size bike with a full-size weight, it is reasonably easy to maneuver at low speeds. You're not feeling like it's, you know, heavy and portly and tippy and everything like that. So you don't have to worry about anything like that. And just coming up to a splitting part here, you can see, you know what? Traffic stopped. Go ahead, it's no problem. Granted, there's, you know, a fair amount of room between these cars, so I'm not exactly folding in the mirrors. Oh yeah, mirrors. Mirrors work well. They are attached to the bars, and I'm not a huge fan of that, but, I mean, obviously lacking a fixed fairing, there's not really anywhere else you can put the mirrors that would work, so you have to take what you get. But yeah, all in all, I am very happy with this motorcycle. If I were in the market for this type of ride, I would have no trouble throwing down my cash for this. Obvious competition, you got the Bonneville Triumph, what is it, like the Triumph Bonneville Scrambler or whatever it is. You know, Ducati's making one. You got like the Yamaha ones. I mean, everyone's making a Scrambler, obviously. I think this one compares very nicely to all of those. It is a beautiful bike. You know, it has legitimate heritage to it. I mean, you look back at like the Dakar rallies in the 80s, and, you know, people were riding these like giant dirt bike GSs across the desert, and so, you know what, maybe you could take it across the desert. I don't know. Anyways, hope you guys enjoyed that one, and I'm looking forward to riding more motorcycles and not going around vans when I can't see around them. I mean, thank you, guy, but no. Hope to get you more of these reviews, more videos coming up soon, and yeah, hope you like this one. And make sure to drop by CalMoto Mountain View in California, beautiful sunny California. Oh, look at that blue sky, it's amazing. And I'll see you guys next time.